Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Titletown Talk. I'm your host, Ian Ewing. I am excited for this one. On today's episode, we are going to preview the most exciting, anticipated game of the year to date, Packers Steelers Sunday Night Football. I've been looking forward to this one since the schedule came out. We kind of knew Aaron Rodgers was going to be the Steelers quarterback way before he actually signed with them. You know, it was kind of like the worst kept secret type of thing. Once it became official, I got real excited for this game. Obviously, there's the Aaron Rodgers of it all. I've heard a lot of people talking about how they want Aaron to play well and, you know, this and that. And look, I'll be real, like, I still love Aaron Rodgers, the player, emphasize the player. He's played well this season. And, you know, Aaron Rodgers versus his old team, Super Bowl rematch, all that stuff. The Packers have not won in Pittsburgh since 1970. Bart Starr was the quarterback back in 1970. So weird stuff happens in Pittsburgh for the Packers. So I will say this game is, and we'll talk about my prediction at the end. I've been going back and forth on this one the entire week. Let's start by previewing the Steelers offense. We're going to go top 5 from PFF first, break down these guys, and then we will break down the rest of the offense. Number 1 rated player on the Steelers offense is DK Metcalf, the wide receiver. 78.6. So you guys know if you listen to the podcast in the offseason, which if you did, I appreciate, by the way. Those episodes didn't do near as well as these do, which is good to know. Try to make them better next offseason. I was very high on the idea of the Packers trading for DK Metcalf. It seemed like it was getting close. We've gotten some confirmed reporting since then. The Packers offered a 3rd-round pick, and the Steelers got a 2nd-round pick over to the Seahawks. So on top of that, they paid him $30 million a year, which I don't think he's worth that. Even as good of a season as he's had, I don't think he's a $30 million receiver, but I digress. He's had a nice start to the season. He's obviously a constant threat on the outside. He and Aaron have gotten a pretty good rapport already in a pretty short time. He definitely trusts him. There's a lot of goal line situations where he just throws it up. He's hit him on a bunch of deep balls already this year. They're hitting back shoulders together. The ironic thing is DK's never been a run after catch guy, but this year he's been pretty damn good in that aspect. So I do think the Packers need to be pretty aware of his yak ability in this game, and they have not done well against bigger bodied receivers, as you saw last week. Marvin Harrison Jr. with that deep pass, George Pickens against the Cowboys tore him up. Jamar Chase, not really a bigger receiver, but had a good game against them. So I'd be lying if I told you guys I wasn't a little bit nervous for this one. Their number 2 ranked player, Isaac Sumilo, I can't say his name, guys, sorry. Their guard, he is a 71.1. Their interior is pretty strong, as you guys will hear in a minute. Their tackles are not, to say the least. Pat Freiermuth, their tight end, is their number 3 overall player, 69.9. Yep, the Packers have another good tight end this week they're facing after giving up a pretty big game to Trey McBride last week. Pat Freiermuth had 100 yards last week against the Bengals, and the Packers have always, really, it feels like as long as I've been a fan, they struggle with tight ends. And this year they've been a bit even more ineffective against tight ends than normal. And so I'd be lying if I told you guys I wasn't a bit nervous. We'll talk about their tight ends a little bit more in a minute. Number 4 graded player, Mason McCormick, 67.3. He's their other guard. And then number 5 is Zach Frazier, their center. Zach Frazier's questionable for this game. He did not practice on Thursday. I do believe he did practice limited on Friday. So there is a decent chance he doesn't play in this game. He probably does, but we'll see. As you can see, you know, their offensive line in the interior is pretty damn good. They're a pretty good run-blocking offensive line. Not great in pass protection, especially the tackles, which we'll get to in a little bit. Let's talk about the man of the hour, Aaron Rodgers, returning to face his former team. I really wish this game was in Lambeau. I don't know if you guys do as well. Being in Pittsburgh just doesn't feel like it could have as good as it could have been, you know. As far as his season this year, statistically, it's been a pretty good year. He's got 14 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. So that means he's pacing for 39 touchdowns and 4,000 yards passing. So again, that would be a pretty damn good season for him. Certainly the best one since his MVP campaign in 2021. He's obviously been good at taking care of the football his whole career. And, you know, no exception this year. 4 interceptions is not bad. But he's up to 7 turnover-worthy plays this year. So he's thrown 7 potential picks. Defenders have dropped a lot of them. And against the Bengals, he took a couple of ill-advised shots to Metcalf. One of them was picked off. As far as his grade from PFF, he's at a 64 on the year so far. So, not blowing the doors off the place, but, his probably the biggest surprise, a lot of his success this season has been yards after catch. His average depth of target is the worst in the NFL right now. So he does not throw the ball past 10 yards almost ever. And it does seem like the last couple of weeks he's been doing a bit more of it. He's been a bit more mobile the last couple of weeks. He looked really young and spry last week against the Bengals, ironically. So again, he relies a lot on yards after catch to his running backs specifically and his tight ends. So obviously, and then DK Metcalf, who we talked about. That brings me to a big concern of mine in this game facing the Steeler offense. Aaron Rodgers, he gets the ball out quickly. He always has. And he's very difficult to fool. So, if we zoom out and think about this one, right? The Packers, they played the Cowboys, and Dak had immense success against them this season, just getting the ball out before Micah got there, before the other guys got there. So I would be shocked if they didn't use the quick passing game in this one. And as far as disguising blitzes and stuff, Hafley mentioned in his presser this week that they got some stuff planned. They're going to have to be really, really creative with pressure packages this week. Again, his average release time, fastest in the NFL by far. And like I said, the teams that have beaten the Packers this season, that's what they do. They get the ball out quick before the pass rush gets there. So again, I'd be lying if I told you guys I wasn't a bit nervous. One of the reasons he's been able to do that is because that interior of the offensive line is really good. Their tackles are not. So guards and centers, they're good. They essentially, and they're not great inside, but they're very much the tackles suck, guards are good. So even if you have good edge rushers, before they get here, we're going to have the ball out. That's sort of their plan. And that said, if Devontae Wyatt plays, I feel pretty good about this game. If he doesn't play, that means that you have Colby Wooden, Carl Brooks, Warren Brinson, Nazir Stackhouse in the middle. None of them really scare me too much if I'm the Steelers. So I think they can play Parsons up the middle. I think they will do that to get some quick pressures, but that segues into probably my biggest concern. The biggest concern if I were a Steelers fan, I should say that. They have really bad wide receivers. This is a crazy stat. So their wide receivers total this season, they average 6.5 catches per game. So there are receivers in the league this year, Romeo is one of them, by the way, who's averaging 6 catches by themselves. So they literally have guys in the receiving game at wide receiver that do not catch the ball. So that brings me again to a fear that I have. Their tight ends are really, really good. So, let's talk about their tight ends. So they have Pat Freiermuth, who's I think always been a bit underrated. He's never really had a quarterback to throw him the ball till this season. They have Jonnu Smith, who played for the Dolphins last season. He's pretty damn good. And they have Darnell Washington. If I had a podcast back in 2023, I would have predicted that the Packers were going to leave that draft with Darnell Washington. As you guys may remember, going into that 23 draft, they badly needed a tight end. And I knew that they were going to pick that tight end in the second round because they have 2 picks. One of them was the Aaron Rodgers trade, ironically. They took Luke Musgrave. But like I said, I was almost 100% certain they were going to pick Darnell Washington out of Georgia. He ended up going in, I believe it was the 3rd round, maybe the early 4th, Washington did, because of some sort of long-term, I think it was a knee or a leg issue. So his longevity in the league was in question. So they kind of, the Packers didn't want to take a risk there, which I get. So Darnell Washington came out 6'7", 270, ran a 4.6. The dude is a freak show. Now, that said, he's gotten a little bit bigger over the years, but his skill set is basically he's a phenomenal run blocker, he's a phenomenal pass blocker, and he's a good receiving option. And they use him as a decoy. Aaron's been looking for him in the red zone a bit more recently. He's gotten a few touchdowns there. So they target the tight ends a lot. Their wide receivers are not good. At receiver, they have Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson. They have Ben Skoranek, who, if you guys remember, played for the Rams a couple years back. He's decent. And then Scotty Miller, the famous Packer killer from the 2020 NFC Championship game. He beat Kevin King right before halftime. Tom Brady threw that dime to him. You guys remember Scotty Miller. So I will tell you guys, he is out this game, so he cannot hurt us. Thank God. So I do think one thing I can guarantee you guys, the Steelers are contenders in the AFC. The AFC North has been bad. They will be trading for a wide receiver at the deadline. I can almost guarantee it. Now, who that is, we'll see. Luckily, that player is not going to be on the team this week. So, key number 1, keys to the game. Shut down DK Metcalf. Like I said before, these other receivers are bad. They have got to make sure that DK Metcalf does not take over this game. He has taken over some games in the season so far. He's by far their best player on offense. He's even better than Aaron Rodgers, yes. I can guarantee you with 100% certainty that the Steelers have been watching our boy Nate Hobbs, and they have him circled in this game. If there's one thing you guys know about Aaron Rodgers, as soon as he sees a young corner in there or somebody who's not playing well or can't cover, he's going to test them. So again, I would bet my entire fortune, which is not much, sadly, they are going to try to get DK Metcalf on Nate Hobbs, and they are going to test him early and often. So I think you pull Evan Williams over, you pull Xavier McKinney over, whatever side DK is on, and you make damn sure that he does not beat you in this game. If the tight ends beat you, we'll talk about them in a minute. If Calvin Austin beats you for a 40-yard pass or Roman Wilson beats you up the sideline, whatever, you just tip your cap. But they're not good. They're just not good. The cornerbacks, the Packers corners have struggled, yes, specifically Nate Hobbs. He needs to play much better than he has. We talked about him at the end of this episode last week. We have got to see better play from Nate Hobbs, yes. But if there's one wide receiver group that can get the Packers cornerbacks back on track, it's this Steelers wide receiver room. So if you shut down DK Metcalf on the outside, similar to what the Bengals did last week. He did not kill them last week. 3 catches, 52 yards. He did have that one deep ball. But other than that, that was about it. So I do think that is a number 1 priority in this game on defense. Key number 2, do not let the tight ends take over the game. I mentioned before, the Steelers play a ton of 3 tight end sets and heavy personnel. They're actually a really good running team, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. So that means the Packers are going to be playing a lot more base defense in this game. So Javon Bullard in the slot, Isaiah McDuffie as a third linebacker at times. Steelers tight ends, Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington's basically a 6th offensive lineman, right? They do use him. They've been using him as a decoy. They sneak him out of the backfield. They use him kind of the way that the Packers use Tucker Kraft in the red zone, where he, pretends he's blocking and then just like sneaks out around. And then again, he's pretty athletic despite the fact that he's massive. I'm a little bit concerned about him possibly having one of those Mercedes Lewis catches in the red zone, right? Phenomenal blocker. The other 2 guys are really good receivers. And like I said last week, the Cardinals, their biggest mismatch in that game was getting Trey McBride on Quay Walker and the linebackers, and it came true. I was right, unfortunately. He got lost several times in the Packers secondary and scored 2 touchdowns. Now, these Steelers guys are not half as good as Trey McBride, not even close. But as you saw last week, Freiermuth can win. He had 100 yards last week. Jonnu Smith has had a lot of really good games in his career. The tight ends alone last week had 11 catches from Aaron Rodgers. So he likes the tight ends. He likes the running backs. He does not like the receivers. Simple as that. So they have to make sure they're assignment sure in this game. They have to make damn sure they're tackling. And Hafley brought it up in his presser this week. The majority of the reason that tight end issue happens is because of miscommunication on the linebackers. So they have to make sure that does not happen this week. You cannot let it happen where their tight ends are their only real threats outside of Metcalf, and then they just tear up the game. Now, again, they're going to get theirs. They're good players. They just can't kill you in this game. Key number 3, limit yak. If you guys don't know what yak is, it's yards after catch. The running backs, they catch a lot of passes in this offense, and they've been pretty reliant on yards after catch to get yards, right? I mentioned earlier the Packers are the best team in the league at limiting yards after catch. They've been swallowing up running backs out of the backfield all year. Look no further than week 1. Jahmyr Gibbs had 10 catches for 31 yards, which those of you who are not familiar with stats, that's a bad game. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Billy Krosky-Merritt, whatever they call him these days, for the Commanders, he's been playing well. He did nothing in that game. Kenneth Gainwell, he's a pretty damn good receiver out of the backfield. Jalen Warren is their other running back. He's pretty damn good as well. So if they catch the ball, a receiver catches the ball in front of the quarterbacks, make the damn tackle. If they have the running back stopped in the backfield, finish the damn tackle. The Packers, despite how good they've been, have the worst passing defense EPA in the NFL in the intermediate part of the field. So when teams throw against the Packers between yards 10 through 20, they're the worst in the league at defending that. But the Steelers are 27th in the league at attacking that. And again, as you guys know, Aaron Rodgers is not a guy who throws to the middle of the field very often. So they're going to do dump off screens, throws to the outside, make sure that they don't beat you out there. Key number 4, stop the run. Again, some of these keys are going to be the same in every game, and they just are more important in other games. This game, so the Steelers, they're going to want to run the ball in this game. The Packers, they need to stop the run, as always. The key should be for the Packers, make Aaron Rodgers drop back 30-plus times and throw it. And if he's going to be forced to dink and dunk it all over the field, have a guy there every time. Yes. The Packers are still the best run defense in the NFL, statistically. They're actually number 10 in DVOA. So, again, not quite as good. Either way you slice it, running backs have just not beaten the Packers this year. They'd be actually higher in DVOA if it wasn't for the Browns' performance. Quinshon Judkins actually has not played well, but he played well against the Packers, so that skewed their number a little bit. The running game for the Steelers is 26th in the NFL in yards per game. But here's the funny part. They're actually 6th in DVOA, and they have the most runs, explosive runs in the NFL since week 4. So the last couple weeks, they've been actually breaking some big runs. So they just don't commit to the run very often. So the Packers need to be damn sure they do not have a leaky running game in this one. If they commit to running the ball, they need to stop it. I think the Steelers will try to run the ball a lot more in this game than they have. Because, again, how do you beat a really good pass rush like the Packers? You run at them. So Kenneth Gainwell, as far as running backs go, he's got a 73 rushing grade on the season, so pretty good. And then Jalen Warren's also 73. So they're both above average from a grading standpoint. I think they're going to try to run the ball a lot more in this game. They, like I mentioned before, their yards per game is not good. It's because they typically put the ball in Aaron's hands when they need it. And I think in this game, early on specifically, they're going to try to run the ball, despite the fact that Aaron's going to want to come out and light up his old team. But they would be smart to try to run the ball. And the Packers need to be ready for that. Key number 5, the most important key on defense, Rodgers in the quick passing game. And this is what I'm most concerned about in this game. And this is one of the reasons why I've been so hesitant to just pick the Packers in this game. So I'm going to double down on a point I've been making. Teams have figured out how to beat this defense. They get the ball out quick before Micah and the boys get there. Aaron's old. He's crusty, right? Still athletic, but he does not want to get hit. And I can tell you for a fact he does not want to get hit against this defensive front. So, again, you're not going to be able to disguise pressures. Aaron's seen everything. You know, I'm not saying Hafley can't design pressures, but it's not going to be something that Aaron's not seen before, right? So the one thing that will make my hair, I will pull every piece of my hair out, and sadly there's not a lot of hair left, unfortunately. It's going to be the corners playing 10 yards off the receivers, and then them completing one for 5 yards, and then 8 yards, and then there's a first down again, and then they just take 20 million years to get down the field. I know Hafley has said it, and I do agree with this to some degree. A team cannot dink and dunk themselves over 20 points in this league. But if there was a team that could do it, it's the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers. I almost said the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. So play tight coverage, press these MFers at the line. The Bengals pressed their receivers a lot last week. And again, it's because they're not good. The Steelers receivers are not good. So they are going to try to get the ball out quick. The Packers need to be ready for it. Getting pressure on Aaron should be the number one priority, as it should be every week, but especially in this game. They have to win quick. As I mentioned earlier, the interior is pretty good. The best way to win quick and get to the quarterback is to win inside. Because, again, the closest pass rushers to the quarterback are the defensive tackles. The guards and center are good. The Packers' interior defensive linemen are not so good. I almost think, and I almost want to say this, we'll see if I just change my mind mid-episode. If Devontae Wyatt plays in this game, I feel much better about the Packers winning than if he doesn't. So I do think, in terms of how the Steelers will stop this pass rush, they're going to use Darnell Washington to help block Micah Parsons, especially when he's playing against the tackles. That means the other guys have got to come out and win this game. We can't have another one of those games where Rashawn Gary disappears. We can't have a 40 overall grade from Barron Sorrell, the rookie. We can't have one of those Kingsley Enagbare games where he just disappears and gets pancaked 40 times. And those interior young guys, regardless of if Devontae Wyatt plays, he's not going to play all the snaps. They need to get somebody else to step up in the pass rush game. And that's, if I had a sixth key, it would be this one. Micah went crazy in that game last week, but we did get production from the other guys. Somebody else needs to step up in this game too. And like I said, if we get Devontae Wyatt back, I feel really, really good about this. But we don't know if he's going to play yet. LaFleur said he practiced every single time this week. LaFleur said he looked good, but he's still questionable, so we'll see. Let's break down the Steelers' defense. In other words, the most afraid of anybody I am on this team is their defense. The top 5 from PFF. Number 1, the former Badger, their speed rusher, Nick Herbig. 91.2. The dude has broken out this season. Jeez, can't talk. So he was drafted as an off-ball linebacker, similar to the way Parsons was drafted. He's become a really good edge rusher. And this season, he's actually been a better pass rusher than TJ Watt. I think he's going to be a big problem on Sunday. And he's going to be rushing against Rasheed Walker, who has struggled against speed rushers. So I'm a bit concerned. Now, granted, we'll get to this in a second. He does not play all the snaps, and that might actually help the Packers. Number 2, Cam Hayward, the never-aging Cam Hayward. Defensive tackle, 89 grade on the season. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. And after seeing what Calais Campbell did last week against Jordan Morgan, for example, as well as what the Browns defensive tackles did in week 3, I'm a bit concerned about Cam Hayward having a big game in this one. He has an 81 pass rushing grade, an 80 run stopping grade, so he's good in both aspects. And I think he's going to play a really good game in this one. I'm actually probably most worried about Cam Hayward. I mean, again, they got a really good pass rush. We'll talk about it in a minute. Number 3, TJ Watt, their edge. The former Badger, 78.3. I'm going to get this out really quick. Hot take. I'm going to get a lot of shit for this. I think TJ Watt is massively overrated. And I think he was certainly not overrated back, 3-4 years ago. But as of this particular moment, he is overrated. Yes, he should have been picked over Kevin King back in 2017, I believe it was. He's a really, really good player. The thing is he's never been, and he's especially not now. He's not a consistent disruptor like Micah Parsons is, like Myles Garrett is, or even Trey Hendrickson, honestly. But what he is, and he continues to be, is he's clutch as hell. So he disrupts the game when it matters the most. And that's why he's always had really good sack numbers, because when they need a sack, he comes up big. So his pressure numbers have never quite matched that. For example, this season he's got 23 pressures in 6 games. Micah has 37, despite playing limited snaps in week 1 and 2. So, hot take, I think Zach Tom will be able to handle him just fine. In fact, he did a couple years ago when the Packers played the Steelers. He did not beat them in that game. So, that being said, I think that he's a bit overrated. I do think he's going to be... I'm less concerned about him as opposed to Cam Hayward and Nick Herbig. Their number 4 graded player on defense, Deshaun Elliott, their safety, 69 grade. His coverage grade is only 60, but he's got grades in the mid to upper 70s in run defense and tackling. So he can be had in coverage. They do blitz him a lot, and they blitz him. They blitz Jalen Ramsey a lot too. Mike Tomlin's really creative with blitzes, and I'm actually a bit afraid of this in this game. So Alex Highsmith, edge, number 5, 66.8. Ironically, last week, as great as Nick Herbig played, Highsmith got 70% of the snaps. So they have a rotation going on that left side. Well, it's the Packers left, their right side. I think that anytime they put Highsmith in over Nick Herbig, it's a win for the Packers. So we shall see how much he plays. I like Alex Highsmith, but he is not as good as Nick Herbig, especially this season. So let's break down the rest of their defense. We talked about their defensive line. As you heard, the majority of them are in the top 5 of their highest graded defensive players. They do have rookie Derek Harmon. And if you guys recall, he was my initial draft prediction to the Packers in round 1. Big fan of his. Bit of a slow start for him. He's got some injuries, but he has picked it up the last couple weeks. He's got 2 sacks already. And like some of those sacks are half sacks. I was watching a Steelers guy on the Pack-A-Day with Andy Herman, and he was talking about how he's played really well. It doesn't really show up in the pressure numbers on PFF, but, I'm high on him. If you have any question on that, listen to the defensive tackle preview episode that I did in the offseason. The other guy they have is Keanu Benton, also a former Badger. They feel like the Steelers draft a lot of former Badgers. He's been really bad against the run, 44 grade, but a 71 pass rush grade. So again, their defensive line from a pressure standpoint is very, very good, and I am massively concerned about that. To save you guys a little bit of I'll give you a little spoiler on what's coming. Their linebackers have been colossally bad. Patrick Queen, I'll just give you guys a quick Patrick Queen rant. The year that the Packers picked Jordan Love, 2020, Patrick Queen was in that draft, and I thought for sure they were going to draft a linebacker. They needed one desperately. Excuse me. He had everything you look for from a linebacker coming out of college. I think he was there when the Packers picked, and they picked Jordan Love. And at the time, in the moment, I was really mad when they drafted Jordan Love, but it took me about 4 or 5 hours, and I was like, okay, I get it. It makes sense. But I was a big Patrick Queen fan. He's never been near as good as we all thought he would be. Never. They gave him a nice contract last season. He's been a bit of a disappointment. 47 grade this season, but a 32 coverage grade. Always been a good blitzer. They'll definitely use him in blitz packages for sure. But I can tell you for a fact, the Packers have probably seen him and the other linebackers in coverage. I'll just say that. Cole Holcomb is their other linebacker. He's been pretty good. He's actually their third highest graded player, but again, he doesn't play all the snaps, so he's not on my top 5. And then Peyton Wilson, their second-year linebacker, is also very bad. He was predicted to be a second-round pick, sort of in the same area as Edge Cooper last year, but he has a missing ligament in his knee or something like that, whatever it is. And there's concern if he's even going to be able to play 10 years in the league. So that's why he fell where he did. That being said, he has a 44 grade this season, a 46 in coverage. So these linebackers, they can be had. They've been getting eaten up in the intermediate part of the field. Their cornerbacks are interesting, right? They have Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., who I really like, out of Penn State, and then the never-aging Jalen Ramsey. Yes, Jalen Ramsey, the former Jaguar, Ram, Dolphin. I love Jalen Ramsey. I always will, but let's talk about it in a minute. Their cornerbacks, old, slow, not great in coverage. Darius Slay has a 56 coverage grade. Joey Porter has a 65, which is okay. Jalen Ramsey's is only a 60. Now, Jalen Ramsey's had a good year every other aspect. He's a really good blitzer. He's been good against the run, but he's not been good playing his actual position that he's getting paid for. LOL. Their safeties, they have Jabril Peppers. They just picked him up. I don't think he starts for them. He's actually played well when he has. He's actually graded in the 70s also. But they have Juan Thornhill, Deshaun Elliott at safety. Now, Thornhill has been very bad in coverage. 50 coverage grade from PFF. Elliott, I think, has in the 70s. Solid. But again, this secondary has been very, very bad. And similar to the Packers, if the D-line does not get pressure, you can get their secondary into hell really quick. The difference between the Steelers and the Packers is the Packers have really good safeties. The Steelers do not. So let's go over the keys on offense for the Packers. Number 1, I could stop right here. That's how important this is. Protect Jordan Love. This is my biggest concern on offense by far. This Steelers defense reminds me a lot of the 2011 Packers, ironically. And if you guys remember, they led the league in turnovers that year. They would get them right when they needed them most, right? There'd be games where, like the Chargers game that year, where Phillip Rivers threw for like 500 yards against them. The 2011 Packers were a story of their defense gets eaten alive every game, and then they get a pick right when they need it, or a sack, right? This is sort of how the Steelers have played this season. They have 22 sacks on the year. They have 4 guys on their defensive line. We went over all 4 of them, by the way, who have a 70 pass rush grade. Now, they do not have the high-end pressure guy like Micah. I mean, again, you could argue TJ Watt, but again, we talked about earlier, not as consistent of a difference maker as Micah. But they have a lot better secondary players than the Packers. So again, the Steelers overall, 136 pressures this season so far. The Packers have 139, so you can hear there's a similarity there. They're good. The difference between the Packers defense and the Steelers is, again, the Packers have good linebackers and good safeties. The Steelers do not. Now, the good news is the Packers have had 2 weeks in a row of all their preferred starters on the offensive line. The composite offensive line rankings have them at number 10. So this composite offensive line ranking takes all the 3 major networks, if you want to call it that, like ESPN, PFF, and then I'm not actually sure what the third one is, and they just average their rankings together. The Packers were in the mid to low 20s before the Cincinnati game when they got all their starters back. Now they're number 10. So you can see the Packers have gotten significantly better on the offensive line since they got all their guys back. Shocker. Now, here's the interesting thing. I've been over this a few times, and this stat I do not have in my notes, but I'm going to kind of just wing it. This is Jordan, when he does not get pressured, he is the best quarterback in the NFL by about 7 metrics. I don't have all 4 of them in front of me. Sorry, I said 7. There are 4. EPA per dropback, he's number 2. When he's pressured, he's 30th. Now, the stat I don't have in front of me, and I don't remember it, I apologize. The thing that's interesting about that, yes, he's bad when the other team gets pressured, but he only has receivers open 1 point something % of the time. So that's the big problem, is nobody's getting open when there's pressure. So I think that will help. We'll talk about it in a minute with the man coverage that the Steelers play. I think Zach Tom being back is going to help massively in this game. But the key is, if you keep Jordan clean, he can dice you up. And this secondary is very, very bad. We just talked about it. They've been giving up massive performances all season. Carson Wentz had 300 yards against them, right? So that's going to be the main thing in this game. If they protect Jordan, if they get pressure under 20% of the time in this game, I think the Packers dice this team up. But as I'll tell you guys at the end, I'm nervous about that. Key number 2, do not turn the ball over. Steelers, 5 picks on the season on defense. They also have recovered 5 fumbles. So they've forced 5 fumbles and gotten all 5 of them back. So again, when they have chances to make plays, they make them. Now, they have not gotten a turnover for 2 straight weeks. They didn't get one against Flacco, and I don't remember who they played the week before, but they have not gotten a turnover in 2 weeks. So some of that luck early in the season has shifted. The luck the Packers have not gotten, by the way, the Steelers have gotten. Their success on defense has been almost completely predicated on forcing turnovers. If they do not get turnovers, they struggle. They give up a ton of yards. They don't cover well. They're not good against the run. And that's bad, but then they get a turnover, and then it sort of bails them out. So again, they got completely wrecked last week against the Bengals. They didn't turn the ball over. So if you give the Steelers defense the ball, if you don't give it to them, I should say, you'll be able to move it up and down the field on them. The Packers have only had 2 turnovers since the Browns game. So again, they've done a pretty good job at taking care of the ball. But if there was ever a game to not turn the ball over, it's this one. For the love of God, Jordan, don't make one of your stupid boneheaded plays. Josh Jacobs has been a little bit fumble happy in the past. Don't fumble the damn ball. And then the receivers, they also have had a fumbling issue. Do not fumble the damn ball in this game. The Steelers will try to force one. I can guarantee you that. Key number 3, get into short third downs. Use the quick game I put in here too. Again, the game plan, if it even closely resembles what the Packers did against the Bengals and Cardinals, this is going to be bad. This defensive line is a massive problem, like I said. And even though the Packers have improved in pass protection, the Steelers are going to get pressure in this game. It just depends on how much. We've not seen much quick game from the Packers this season. They used it a lot last season. They used it a little bit this season against the Browns. But LaFleur needs to have a plan for this game. If it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, now the Packers are the best third down team in the league, despite what Cowherd said this week, by the way. LOL. If they get a lot of 3rd and longs in this game and they are forced to throw it deep on every 3rd down, that is a bad, bad, bad sign. So Jordan's going to have to get the ball away quickly. He's not going to have time to just go deep every time, right? It's just not possible. So they need to establish the run, use play action, throw off this rush. But for the love of God, get the ball out quick early and make sure that you have a 3rd and manageable every single time. Key number 4, probably the most important one. Start with Josh Jacobs, end with play action. Now, the rushing defense for the Steelers is 24th in DVOA. And you saw it last week, right? The Bengals ate them up in the run game. So this could be a get-right game for the Packers running game. Josh Jacobs is off the injury report, which is good. I thought they've blocked better since the Dallas game, the Packers offensive line, in spurts. But there's still a pretty bad running offensive line. Run blocking offensive line. If it's not working, you still got to keep doing it. Like I said before, when you have a good pass rush on the other side, you run at them. You run at them, you run at them, you run at them. Now, the Packers need to establish the run for multiple reasons. That's one of the biggest reasons why they have not hit 30 points in this year so far. They're being forced to throw the ball way more than they're comfortable with. And in this game, I think the Steelers are going to try to sell out and stop Josh Jacobs. You still got to run him. Still got to run him over and over and over again. The Bengals' success last week against the Steelers was let's run the ball and then let's attack the intermediate part on play action. The Packers are number 1 in the league at hitting the intermediate part of the field. And again, you saw that's that 10 to 20-yard cushion in the defensive backfield. That's where they make all their money, right? Tucker Kraft, Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden. That's where the Packers do best. So establish the run early and then attack that intermediate part of the field. Now, again, all this is predicated on Jordan having time, which we talked about a minute ago. Last week, Joe Flacco killed them in that middle part of the field to Jamar Chase. He only took one deep shot in that game, and he completed it. It was a 37-yard completion. So he had 300 yards passing, but only one deep completion. So it's not like he had like a 70-yard bomb that accounted for those 300 yards. A lot of that was just dicing him up in the middle of the field. And that's because their safeties and linebackers are really bad. So best way to make a linebacker worse, make him come up in the run to stop the run and then hit a shot right behind him. That's what they should do in this game. I expect them to attack it just like that. Now, that brings me to key number 5. Hit your deep shots. The Steelers have not given up a lot of deep completions, and it's because they haven't had to, right? Teams have not gone deep because they don't need to. That being said, they have the 30th ranked defense in giving up explosive plays. So they can, when teams have tried to throw deep on them, they've been successful. Now, the problem is they haven't had to. Again, you're much more likely to complete a 10 to 20-yard pass than a 70-yard pass or whatever. So teams know that. They're going to take advantage of that intermediate part of the field. Now, that said, their corners are old and slow. And Joey Porter Jr. is not old, but he's slow, right? The Steelers have not faced speed like the Packers have on this team yet. And that brings me to Christian Watson. And I don't have this in my notes. I'm just going to ad-lib this. Christian Watson shared a story last night. It seems like he's going to play. I know LaFleur was like, well, that's a medical decision, but I think he's going to play. I brought him up in fantasy, so that means he better play. I can guarantee you guys they're going to take at least 3, maybe 5 deep shots in this game. I think they're going to be open, whether it's Golden or Watson, or maybe it's even Luke Musgrave up the seam, which Luke Musgrave actually had a really good game against the Steelers in 2023. So I do wonder if they might attack with Luke Musgrave a bit in this game. The forgotten tight end. When Jordan has those deep shots, he has to hit them. We cannot see another wide open miss like we did against the Cardinals, the Romeo Doubs 4th down. We've seen Jordan be a little bit erratic on deep balls. He's thrown some beauties this year too, but they have got to hit their deep shots because they're going to be there. And I do think some of them, they're going to decoy with Watson where they run him deep, run the safety back because teams have to respect Watson's speed. And maybe they don't with him coming back. And if they don't, Merry Christmas to us. If they do carry a safety deep, then use the fact that that happened. Hit that intermediate part of the field where they suck. So let's bring it all together and put a bow on it. Steelers defense, they have a ton of talent, but they've not played well this season because they either get turnovers or they get pressure on the quarterback, and that's all they can do. So the game plan should be simple. Protect Jordan, protect. Run the ball early and find success. If you don't, you still run it. And then you use play action to attack the middle of the field where the Steelers suck. And I think that's what their game plan is going to be. Let's get to my final thoughts and prediction here. Like I said at the beginning, the Packers have not won a game in Pittsburgh since 1970. So Bart Starr. Now, granted, they've only played like 6 games there. Like, it's not like they've just been playing there every year and losing, right? But you think about it, right? There have been 30 years of Favre and Rodgers, and neither of them won there, ever. So something weird happens in Pittsburgh. The Packers are wearing their all-white uniforms, which they've won the last 3 games in a row when they've worn their all-whites. So maybe that swings the direction, right? And the Steelers are wearing their hideous, disgusting, mustard throwback uniforms. And I feel that has to cost them at least 3 points with how ugly they are. I'm just saying. As far as pass to victory for the Steelers, they have a lot of them. And that's why I'm concerned. They can force turnovers in this game. They can get pressure on Jordan Love. That can keep the score in the 20s. That's probably the only way the Steelers win is they keep the Packers under 24. And they can use that quick passing game, which the Packers struggle with. and they can dice up that secondary. Now, granted, they got to be patient, but if there's one guy who can be patient, it's Aaron Rodgers. Now, the thing is, and this is why I'm worried about this game, the Steelers have a lot of paths to victory. The last couple of weeks, the Packers have played teams that don't, right? Now, the Packers, their path to victory is simple. Protect Jordan and attack the secondary. Protect Jordan and you win this game. If Jordan Love is under pressure the whole game, they're going to lose. You have my word on that. Feed Josh Jacobs early. If they start running these, 15 and 20 yard deep routes in every play and make Jordan do 5 steps and wait, they're going to lose this game. So, on defense, just pressure Aaron Rodgers. He is going to come into this game wanting to prove something against the Packers. I know he said it's not a revenge game, but he is going to want to play well in this game. This is the 32nd team that he's ever played, and he's never beaten all 32 teams, obviously. Aaron is a massively competitive guy. You know he wants to come out and play well in this game. But I also think Jordan's going to want to do the same because he's like, everybody's talking about Rodgers. What about me? I think there's a world where the Packers blow the doors off this team and win by like 34-17. I dead serious. That is probably the most likely scenario. This is not a good team, the Steelers. I think that they're eventually going to come down to earth, and they could end up losing the next 2 games, right? They play the Packers this week, and I believe they play I forgot who they play next week. Next week's a tough game. I know that, whoever they play. If I were to sum this up, I don't have any analysis behind this. I just don't have a good feeling about this game. It's a road game. The Steelers are going to come in hyped as hell, and I think that they're going to take advantage. I think the Packers need to win the toss. This is another interesting stat. The Steelers have scored their first drive every single time this season. And the Packers need to take the ball first. This whole defer, I think if they defer in this game and the Steelers go down and score, that's going to be a really bad sign. It's going to get that home crowd hyped up. So massive, remember this right here. If the Packers do not get the ball first, that's going to be bad. Just remember this exact words I'm saying. I think Aaron goes out. He makes a bunch of crazy throws in this game. He plays well. I think the Packers lose 24-23. So 1-point game. But I think after this game, they lose this game. They play the Panthers next week, and then they play the Eagles on Monday Night Football, which I'm super excited for. I think they go on a bit of a run after this. I still think the Packers only are going to lose about 4 games this year. I think this is one of them. So I think the Packers, they're the better team. I do think that at some point, things are going to shift in the other direction for the Packers, but maybe they need to get slapped around one more time before that happens. Like I said, this game could easily be a blowout for the Packers, and I think that's probably the most likely scenario. The Packers are the better team, but my final prediction is going to be 24-23 Steelers. And I hope to God I'm wrong. Either way, it's going to be a really fun game. I can't wait to talk about it after the game. Sunday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers versus the Packers. I appreciate you guys listening to the pod this week. I hoped it would get out sooner than this, but here we are. I appreciate you guys listening. Give it a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, download the podcast so I know you're listening. Send me questions. I promise I'm going to answer some of these questions. They're piling up, by the way. I got 4 to answer next week. So without further ado, I will wrap this, and I will talk to you guys after the game. In the meantime, go Pack, go.